Hi, everyone. Welcome to Believe in Bills. Adam Benigni with WGRZ TV and Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, as always. Back off of the bye week for the Bills. Sal, how was it? Did you get a little R&R?
It was my favorite week of the season, Adam, is the one I'm not working. So, yeah, wonderful. I was messed up last night. I don't know if I told you off the air, but it was so funny. Last Thursday, I'm supposed to do radio every Thursday. I was so messed up because of they played Monday night. So I'm traveling on Tuesday. So my days were all mixed up. I'm on vacation last week. Totally forgot to go to my radio show. I get a text from the host like, dude, where are you? I said, oh my God. So yeah, I was definitely tuned out last week, but I'm tuned back in this week, Adam, for this big Panthers matchup Sunday afternoon.
What did they do? Did they get you on the phone? Was it John DiTullio? Is that who your host is?
Texted me, said, you coming in? And I said, oh, well, sorry, dude, I'm on the elliptical right now. I totally forgot. So I didn't do it. So what are you going to do? He's on vacation next week, I think. So I got to go in Friday and host his show. So I'll make up for it that day.
All right. So anyone watching or listening to this who might not know, might as well get in a plug. What is that? That is the Buffalo Bros, right?
Yeah, the Buffalo Brothers. Me and it's John DiTullio's radio show here in town, but he has me and Mike Catalana from Channel 13 every Thursday from 1 to 2. So we have a great time chopping it up with those guys. So yeah, so I guess next week we're doing the show Thursday, but then Friday, John, I think it's his wedding anniversary, so he's taking off. So I think Mike and I are going to do the show for him on Friday too. So
somehow I think you'll be able to hold down the fort.
Yeah, especially with the Chiefs. So we'll have plenty to talk about next week. But first, they better get through Sunday, Adam, because they lose this one. This season is going to look a whole lot different than it did a month ago. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. But I'm not saying I think they're going to lose. But I think this,
no.
Sal, you're oftentimes, and I, been known for this, I suppose, at times, but I don't think in the category that you are of being a pessimist, right?
I am.
I call it keeping it real. But
Yep.
I remember it was the last show we did last week after the Monday night or heading into the bye. And all of a sudden you were like, the Bills could be not only in second place in the division, but like a game and a half behind the New England Patriots. Well, lo and behold, look where they are. How quickly things can change with a 2-game losing streak, and this is what you're alluding to. Now, we all know how Sean McDermott, he doesn't lose coming out of a bye, and they better hope that's the case. But I would argue there's always questions about football teams at this point, but that track record, I don't know if it's in jeopardy against Carolina, but I think that the questions surrounding this football team are very legitimate as we look toward the long stretch left in the season.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty cool that the Bills have never lost a game after their bye week under Sean. And that's an indication that he does a good job of getting them back on track, getting them back into the groove and of the preparation for the upcoming game. Now, this is the first time they've had to do it coming off a 2-game losing streak. I looked that up. They had never lost 2 games going into their bye. So it sort of ratchets up their need to keep this perfect post-bye streak alive, because losing 3 in a row at this point, we're still got a long way to go. We're not even at the half. We're just barely past the 1/3 point of the year. But the way things are setting up, Adam, they played some easy games early in the season, and by all rights, they handled their business. I mean, they're 4-2. That's probably where we kind of figured they would be. I thought they were going to lose to Baltimore. They miraculously pulled that out, but I didn't think they'd lose to the Patriots. So it all kind of evened out. They're probably where we thought they'd be. What we didn't expect was the Patriots were going to be 5-2 and in first place. That's where things have gotten a little bit squirrely for the Bills. And as I alluded to, now you've got a Panthers team that's been surprising in their own right. They've won 3 in a row. One of those games was a good game against Dallas. They also beat, I forget, 2 lousy teams, the Jets being one of them. So they're a little bit questionable. But still, they're 4-3, and they're playing at home where they haven't lost this year. And the Bills have the Chiefs coming in next week. So this game, because I think the Chiefs are back to being the Chiefs. And I think they're going to come into Buffalo, and I think they're going to take care of business. So this game for Buffalo becomes imperative because, again, me being the pessimist, you lose here, and then there's a good chance they can lose to the Chiefs. You're looking at 4-4. Nobody had the Bills 4-4 going into the middle part of the season. So this is a big, big game for the Bills. They need to figure it out and get right.
Yeah, you're talking about a changing perception, right? And here's where you drop in FanDuel and the Super Bowl odds, right? We kind of follow this, but clearly the Chiefs are your Super Bowl favorites now at plus 500. Detroit second at plus 700. Bills are third, where they had been occupying. They were at or near the top in that 1 or 2 spot, I think, for the entire balance of the season, or at least tied for it, right? Bills are third at plus 750 right now. So it's not just
which
pessimism.
I think is high. I think that's high, Adam. I really do. Based on what's happened and looking at their roster, I'm surprised that they're still third in FanDuel's odds. But go ahead, finish your point.
Well, I mean, I think that has to do with Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
But let's get into it now a little bit, all right? And it has to do more with the defense. I mean, the reason they're as high as they are it's Josh Allen. The reason they're falling out, that's both sides of the ball, the offensive struggles and on the defensive side. We're going to get into both right now. Let's start with the update on the injuries, what we know, in particular, Bernard and Milano.
Yeah. I don't really know. I mean, they were out there practicing. Of course, you know that we don't get to see the real practice. So they're out there doing their drills and they're tackling the dummies and all that. So I don't know. He said they were going to be, McDermott said they'd be limited. I haven't seen the practice report today. Obviously, I'm not over there. Some of the guys were saying that they believe that both of those guys could play. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. We don't know that for sure. It would be nice if they had both linebackers ready to go. I mean, Shaq Thompson's been nice. I think Shaq Thompson is very useful to them when they go 3 linebackers, which I think they should probably do more of if and when they ever do get fully healthy at the position. But I'm not going to count on Milano until I see him on the field Sunday. And even Bernard with an ankle injury, who knows how serious that is. So those two to me are going to be questionable. I'm sure they'll probably be questionable when the final report comes out Friday, and the Bills probably have to hope that both of them can play because they are not good. I mean, Shaq Thompson, and then you're looking at Joe Andreessen and Dorian Williams, who hasn't been very good this year. They've got some issues in the middle there.
They also have him in the secondary. And Taylor Rapp is, on that list as well, dealing with an injury, which could mean Jordan Poyer again.
Yep. Rapp, look, I mean, it seems like a very conveniently timed knee injury. Sounds like one of these, soft landings to bench him. Maybe that's not the case, but he has not been good. He's been flat out terrible is what he's been. So even Jordan Poyer at an advanced age probably doesn't present much of a drop off given the way Rapp has played this year. I mean, if this was last year, Rapp was not terrible last year. He was decent enough, but that's not been the same version. So Jordan Poyer stepped in last week. Again, at that point in the game last week, you didn't see a whole lot from Poyer. The Falcons were trying to kill clock, run the ball. So he wasn't really taken advantage of in coverage. But I don't know that there's going to be much of a drop off if he ends up being the guy who starts next to Cole Bishop. We'll see. They haven't made any indication. Poyer's still on the practice squad. In fact, he's not even been called up to the 53 man. Maybe they just use an elevation for him. I guess that depends on what they think the Rapp injury could be, or they just sign him to the 53 man roster because they have an available roster spot right now. So I have a feeling it's going to be Poyer that starts this game.
Big sidebar, and one that fans have been following, obviously, since the offseason. Hoyt and Ogunjobi coming off the PED suspensions. They are back and available this week. I think given the situation up front with, Daquan Jones, I mean, Ogunjobi would certainly help. But of the two, I think Hoyt has the potential to be, a fairly legitimate impact player for this defense at a time when they need someone like that.
They do. I think Hoyt is you're right. They signed him to be this moving chess piece in their defense. That's what he did when he was with the Rams for 4 years. He would line up on the edge. He'd lined up at off-ball linebacker. Once in a while, he'd be in the slot, depending on what the matchup was, as a cover, linebacker. So I think they're excited to get him in the fold and start deploying him in various places, I think the key there, Adam, would be it would maybe make the Bills defense a little less predictable. I mean, we've gotten so used to them coming out in their base 4-2-5, playing defense the same way. Hoyt presents an opportunity to be a little bit different. So I think he's going to be a big addition to them. Plus, he'll be going in as an edge rusher, and that gets Javon Solomon off the field. And Landon Jackson, who's clearly not ready to play. I mean, those guys were both active in the Atlanta game, which was surprising. They went with 5 edge rushers in that game, despite their issues at cornerback. That didn't make any sense to me. But look, we've seen Solomon and Jackson. They're just not very good. So Hoyt's a big upgrade at that spot. Now, Ogunjobi, look, I think at this stage in his career, he's kind of just a guy. I mean, we haven't seen at all what he can do because he hasn't played. But when you look at the lineup, Adam, he's probably even more important than Hoyt at this point.
Right now.
They're still at least stockpiled that edge rusher. They could get by without a problem. They really need Ogunjobi with Daquan Jones. Probably, well, he's not going to play. He might have to go to IR. TJ Sanders already on IR. They've already used their 3 elevations on Zion Logue, which is no big deal, but they need a tackle. So they had the timing for him with Jones getting hurt last week. The timing's pretty good to get Ogunjobi back in there. I think he'll be an important part. Him and Ed Oliver and Deion Walker probably taking the bulk of it. And then they got to figure out the 4th spot, whether it's, they could sign Zion Logue to the 53-man and elevate Poyer as a practice squad, or they could just call up Jordan Phillips for his last elevation. Although in a game against a good running team, I don't think you want Jordan Phillips out there. So there's going to be some roster gymnastics going on this week. But the key point that we're making is that both Hoyt and Ogunjobi should be on the field.
All right. So let's flip the coin here and go to the Buffalo offense. And look, the 2-game losing streak, each game held under 30 points, which has been uncharacteristic for them. Teams sort of, whether it was the Patriots or the Falcons, able to kind of figure them out a little bit, I think, and exploit their shortcomings in this receiving core, which involves a lack of separation, which we've talked about to a great extent here on this show. And oh, by the way, they've got to find a way to get James Cook going, right?
Yep.
At key points in games as well. I mean, they've been absolutely at their best when they've had the benefit of the balance with that run game. And that has been absent or diminished too often, especially at key points. So how do you jumpstart this thing if they're able to?
Yeah, look, they've got to get Cook back involved more than he's been. Last week against Atlanta, it was 53% of the snaps for the game. That's just too low. I mean, you're trying to tap into Ty Johnson from 2023 and 24. He has not been that player, Adam. Last year and in 23, he was a guy they would bring in, and he was reasonably effective. Teams weren't really used to seeing him, and the Bills utilized him in a pretty good way. That hasn't been the case at all. He's been kind of useless, quite frankly, to this offense. And then Ray Davis has, he's kind of taken a step back after a pretty good rookie season. So they've got to rely on Cook a little more in the offense. And I asked Josh this question yesterday. Other people have been thinking about it too. But don't you have to start getting James Cook involved in the passing game? I mean, what are you doing here? I think the Bills have, I want to say it's been 17 catches all year. I don't know. It's probably more. It's probably not targets. It's probably catches. I don't have my sheet in front of me. 17 catches from running backs all season. Come on. What are you doing? I mean, you've got receivers who aren't getting open. You would think that the running back should be the outlet on some of these plays for Josh. And the fact that Cook isn't a guy they rely on for that just seems silly to me. I mean, look at the Baltimore game, that play he made with that short pass going 50 yards to the 1-yard line. That's what James Cook can do. And I don't understand why the Bills can't incorporate that more in their game plan. They say, and I think we know this about their offensive line, they've got some athletic guys up front. You see them pulling around on running plays. They do a great job in space. Well, why can't you get those guys out to the second level on a pass play to James Cook? I really don't understand. And they've never explained it. Brady never has an explanation, nor does Sean, as to why they don't utilize it. This is a perfect opportunity to jumpstart your passing game. Make them worry about James Cook, and then maybe somebody else could get open downfield.
Yeah, I think absolutely that's certainly one way. Trade deadline coming up on November the 4th. Where does receiver stand on your wish list and what they might be able? We understand, we've talked about this. Could it mean Gabe Davis, who of course is sitting there on the practice squad as well? And is it that? Is he part of an answer, or do you go outside? And what can you get given their salary cap situation? Where do you fall on the list of needs relative to the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Adam, it's cornerback. I mean, they have got to get a. I mean, I say that Maxwell Harrison's practice window has opened this week, and I'm not expecting him. I'll be stunned if he plays Sunday. I just don't think he'd be ready. And I don't know that they'd want to throw him out there for the Chiefs game. Maybe they would, because the Chiefs are so good. Maybe they absolutely might have to and live with some of the mistakes. But everyone that I've talked to, it feels, and this is media, not anybody with the team, feels like maybe that Miami game at the end of the practice window would be the one to bring him back for. But, if they really do feel it's a desperate situation, maybe they do have to rush him. I don't think it'll be this week, though. So I say cornerback just because we don't know what Max Hairston really is yet as a rookie. I mean, having missed so much time, it's really tough to project that he would be a guy who could come right in and start for them and be a productive player. I think it's going to be a slow play with him. Do you want to live with Trey White while you're waiting for that to happen with Max Hairston? I don't know. So I think cornerback is an area that I would definitely look at. Plus injuries, you need to have depth. They have no depth. So I think cornerback would be the way I would go. And they have such limited cap space that probably means you can't do much of anything else. Wide receivers are generally going to cost more. I don't know who you're going to get, Adam. Who's going to come in as a wide receiver and really make a difference on this team? Now, people talk about Chris Olave. Well, maybe, but Olave's got about 3 concussions on his resume. I'd be worried about that. Rashid Shaheed, his teammate, gives you deep speed. I'd be more interested in that because he'd be a little bit different. I think Olave is kind of similar to what they already have. But if you're pressing me, I would say they need to look cornerback first and hope that these receivers with the MVP at quarterback can start figuring it out.
Yeah, and more of James Cook, who is obviously their second most impactful player, as we've already talked about here on the show. All right, quick
look. You
thought
and
on
I
the
have
match.
said this too. You and I have said this. They need to be a run-first team. I mean, it's a passing league. We all know this, but the Bills are at their best when they run. So even though they're wide receivers, they're ordinary, and we knew it. Lean into the run game. That, in theory, that's supposed to help open up the pass game, even for a group of receivers who aren't that good. So that's why I would say you're okay on offense. You've got the pieces, at least enough pieces, to make it work. It's your defense that you've got to shore up. And I think cornerback, if they have one injury right now, if Benford were to go down, what the hell would they do?
What are you doing then?
Right. Like, what would they do? I mean, Trey White gets hurt. Yeah, that would suck. But Trey White he's just not very good anymore. So you would find a capable enough replacement. They lose Benford, they're going to need somebody good to come in, and they don't have that player on the roster. So that's where I would look if he has a chance to make a move at the trade deadline.
All right, point well taken. Sal Maiorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, Adam Benigni of WGRZ TV. Sports Talk Live, Buffalo, Bills and Carolina Panthers, Sunday, 1 o'clock down in Charlotte. And looks like it's going to be Andy Dalton for this game for the Panthers. Bryce Young with a high ankle, expected to miss at least one start, according to reports. But there's a caveat to that. I mean, you say, how are they going to lose to Andy Dalton, right? Well, this is an excellent running football team in the Carolina Panthers. And that, to me, is what makes this game interesting. We talked about shortcomings on defense. Run defense is right near the top of that list. Look at what the Falcons were able to do to him, obviously, with Bijan Robinson and all of that. And so now you've got the fourth best rushing offense in the NFL. Third or fourth, I think, 140.1 points per game. Third. Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, so there's your Carolina's strength plays straight at Buffalo's weakness.
Yep.
And that, to me, is a pivotal. That's your pivot point in this game.
I don't think the Bills are catching a break here getting Andy Dalton. I really don't. People say, oh, yeah, Andy Dalton, he stinks. Well, you know what? Andy Dalton's a 15-year veteran, and you give him a running game like they have in Carolina with a stud receiver in Tet McMillan. Now, granted, he's the only really good receiver they have. They're sort of like Buffalo. Well, the difference being they have a true number one, then they have a bunch of guys who have been pretty mediocre. You give Andy Dalton a running game like this, I think he becomes a reasonably effective quarterback. He's smart. He's seen everything the Bills have ever done, right? He's played against the Bills before, and their defense really hasn't changed all that much in the Sean McDermott era. So he's going to know what to do. Bryce Young, I mean, look, number one overall pick, great. He's young. He's more mobile than Dalton. I don't know that he's all that much better of a quarterback, and he's got way less experience. So I don't think the Bills caught a break here at all with Bryce Young being hurt. The run game is going to be the key. Now, if you do well against their run and you put Dalton into some uncomfortable down in distance, then maybe the Bills defense can go eat a little bit, right? They can rush the passer, get after him. He's not mobile anymore. And like I just said, he's got McMillan and not too much else to throw to. Legette's a decent enough guy, but he's basically Keon Coleman version 2. So I'm not expecting him to hurt the Bills too much. So the key is going to be stopping their run. If they can stop their run and get Dalton into a game where he has to make plays, then I like the Bills' chances on defense much, much better than the other way around.
And from an offensive perspective for Buffalo, this happens to be the 7th ranked defense in the NFL. Yards per game, 295.7. They are 12th in scoring, 21.7 points per game. But again, I mean, I think a lot of people had sort of, chuck this one into the win column with some of but this is also a Carolina team. It's won 3 in a row, right?
Yep.
And they kicked the Falcons' ass. Now, that might have been a little bit of an
30.
aberration and reflective of Atlanta needing to get some things straightened out. But, I mean, I think they have their hands full to a fair degree on Sunday down in Charlotte, don't you?
I agree. I mean, this is a team that they annihilated the Falcons 30-0. Now, the next week they went to New England and lost 42-13. So, they've been a little bit of a tough team to get a handle on. They're young. Canales is a second-year coach. He's trying to put his system in place there. And, it's coming together. They've got some nice players. They've had some high draft picks that are on that team. So I think they are going to be tricky. They've got some good players on defense. I mean, J.C. Horn's a Pro Bowl cornerback. Derek Brown's a really good inside player on the line for them. So the Bills are going to have to do some things well to perform against this Carol. This is not going to be a walkover by any stretch. Start of the year, you looked at this game, Panthers started 0-2, looked like a minor league franchise, just like they've looked for the last 3 or 4 years, quite frankly. They've got things kind of headed in the right direction there. And they're at home. They haven't lost at home. I don't think they've lost at home yet. I'm pretty sure of that.
I think you're right.
They're going to be a tough test for the Bills. The Bills better not go into this thing. And I don't think they will, Adam. Coming off a 2-game losing streak, I think the Bills' focus is going to be right where it needs to be. McDermott will not allow it to be anywhere else. So I'm expecting it to be a tough game, but I'm also expecting the Bills to get it done here because they need to, and I think they will.
Yeah, this is again, McDermott has not lost coming out of a bye week, and this is a very good time. As you pointed out earlier, haven't had a 2-game losing streak going into it, so this will be a fairly good test of that, but I agree with you. I think Bills come out here on top. I think they're still just over a touchdown favorite. I think it was 7.5. I'm not quite sure where it sits as we speak, but that's kind of the neighborhood we're talking about here in terms of the Bills being favored on the road. So that's going to do it for this edition of Believe in Bills. For Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Benigni. Sports Talk Live, Buffalo at WGRZ TV, Monday nights at 7. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Bills.